Wow, today we have a really exciting guest. Dr. Sandra Scheinbaum is on a mission with a key to longevity. Let's find out what that key is. Welcome, Sandra.
Oh, thank you. It is such a pleasure to be here, Susan.
So, you have done a combination over 40 years of clinical psychology, but you've created an innovative model that combines positive psychology with the psychology of eating. And your mission, as I understand it, is to really shake up the medical community, so to speak, to cut down healthcare costs and um, eliminate chronic disease. Can you tell us about that key to longevity?
Sure. Well, it's very, very mission driven. The key is to have a mission and purpose. And I have seen over the years people who lose their mission. They are feeling like they don't have a purpose in life anymore. And they're spending their days just very passive, watching television, perhaps doing a little reading. They're not interested in learning new things, in engaging with new people. And that's not me. So I have always loved learning from the time back when I decided to become a teacher. I loved learning how to teach little kids. And then it was teaching kids with learning disabilities. And then I was teaching people how to become teachers of children with learning disabilities. Spent many years doing that. And then as a psychologist, I love teaching people and guiding them with mind, body, medicine, breathing techniques, for example. This was way back in the late 70s and the 80s. And I also studied functional medicine, which is called root cause, where we're looking at what are the really underlying causes of illness, of symptoms, what's driving this, often inflammation. So I studied all about that. And then, of course, positive psychology and psychology of eating. So I put together all of those disciplines that I had been studying and helping people with for so many years, writing books about. And then when I was 65, that was a time when I was being encouraged to retire. My husband would say, like, just maybe work a few more years to see more people as a psychologist, and then close your practice, and you don't need to work so hard anymore. And I just thought, I have a mission, and that mission is to help people lead healthier, better lives. And I couldn't do it alone. I love teaching. And so I wanted to teach people this model. Fortunately, I had a young associate at the time named Elise, and she joined me in this mission because she was also very mission driven. And we then set out to create a school. Unfortunately, we created it all remote. And so this continues to be my mission. And fortunately, I have a whole team now. We have the partnership of the Institute for Functional Medicine because you can't do it alone. So it is mission. And that's why when I wake up every day, it's not thinking, oh, I'm so old and what am I going to do today? It's like, yes, today's going to be a good day, as our friend and colleague BJ Fogg says. And why is it going to be a good day? Because I have this important work to do.
Yes, yes. Well, that was such an eloquent overview and introduction, really, to what we're going to be talking about here today. Because when we have a mission, we're living our purpose, and there's no 30-year retirement with a gold watch type of thing. It goes on as long as we have the capability to keep on going. So there's no end. It's what we're living for, not living to do. This is our fuel that keeps us going, as you said, like when you get up in the morning. And I love that you brought up, though, it's going to be a great day. Well, that's that positive psychology. Instead of like, oh, it's raining outside. Oh, what's the day going to be like? Well, it doesn't matter because it's going to be a great day. One of the things that when I interviewed Evan Carmichael last week, from his book, he had three things that he would ask people to find out their who. And we think of their who as who the people are that we help. But for him, it's who we are, which is what we're talking about here right now, what keeps us going. And one of the three questions was, what's your favorite song? And I said, Happy by Pharrell Williams. I love that song. I mean, how could you be down when you listen to that song? So that's such a big part of it. And then you said the psychology of eating. Tell me about how those two things come together.
Sure. So, psychology of eating has to do with everything that contributes to what you put in your mouth and when you do that, that have nothing to do with nutrients, that have nothing to do with the actual food itself. Has to do with perhaps your personality. Perhaps we know that people are programmed to like sweet because something bitter could be poisonous, for example. So it goes way back to what's in our genes, but also looking at what are the influences, the environmental influences. So what's our relationship with food? And we could go way back to, well, from the time we were little, what were your influences? Do you eat the way your family eats? Do you eat the way your friends eat? What about we were just actually talking about this. I was moderating a room on Clubhouse, which is one of my favorite new
Yes, I
social
know.
media apps. I'm
We've been on
obsessed with it.
together. Yeah.
And we happened to be talking about the pressure that it comes into play when you are maybe eating with your friends, when you have family members who are not eating the way you do, if you're traveling and somebody's now invited you over to their house, and how do you refuse, or how do you keep on your food plan with all this pressure? So that's the psychology of eating. What are the social influences? What's your relationship, your emotional relationship with food? Do you eat something out of joy? Do you eat mindlessly? Do you pay attention to the emotional state? Also, the cultural influences, as well as the billions of dollars that are spent on advertising to get you to eat a certain way. For example, from social psychology of eating, you describe something in a different way on the menu, and it'll seem tantalizing. You describe it in a different way, it'll be like, ooh, I'm not going to order that. The decor, I mean, there are people who study like the packaging of foods, the words that are used. This is big business, and it all is part of the psychology, social psychology that has to do with eating. So that's the psychology of eating. And I like to blend it with positive psychology. Positive psychology is what's right with you and not what's wrong with you. It's not I'm broken and I need to be fixed. It is that I'm fine as I am, and how can I create well-being?
I
And
love
so
that.
the joy of eating, using food, enjoying the taste, food as celebration, food as community, so that the two are merged. Love of eating. I mean, to taste, feeling zest, alive, and creativity when you prepare a new recipe, for example.
I love that. So, as you were mentioning, at 65, you really started a whole new part of your life, which is a combination of everything that you had been doing before that. And so you're the founder and CEO of the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, FMCA. Tell me how that works. Who do you help? And how is that part of your mission?
Yeah, so health coaches are guides. They help people go from where they are to where they want to be, to help them to change when change is hard. And often people who are experiencing chronic illnesses, or they've been told by a doctor, by a nutrition professional, they need to lose weight, they need to follow a particular food plan, they need to start exercising. And it's really hard to make those changes. Or often they're experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of burnout, which is epidemic. And there's a recent study, 56% of women in corporate are burned out. 42% of doctors on the survey were describing being burned out. Well, coaches can help. There's a lot of evidence, and it's growing stronger and stronger. The fact that when a doctor has a coach in their practice, less stress, everybody thrives, patients thrive. We're doing studies with the Institute for Functional Medicine showing that 5 sessions of coaching, this was a pilot program where our graduates were matched with physicians who were and other health professionals who were going through IFM's training. Institute for Functional Medicine trains healthcare practitioners in functional medicine, and they were paired with a coach, and they did really well. So coaches are needed now more than ever. So when we started, this was like 6-7 years ago. Yes, there were a lot of chronic diseases. We were concerned about the growing epidemic of type 2 diabetes, for example. The incidence of Alzheimer's is climbing. But now, with COVID, we're still,
Yeah.
this is very, very serious. The healthcare system is exhausted, broken, healthcare costs are rising. And so another really renewed mission that I have is to really demonstrate that health coaches can be one of the solutions. For example, all the people who are experiencing long COVID, that's where months past the time that you had this acute illness, that you are still experiencing symptoms. New ones are popping up. And so the jury is still out on the impact, both on a personal level on somebody's health and well-being, as well as the impact on the healthcare system. So what can coaches do? Well, they really support people. They help them. They are a personal cheerleader. They can often offer education. They're not licensed medical providers, so they don't diagnose or treat a medical condition. They don't give advice, but they are at your side. And often they're your advocate through the healthcare system. And it's an affordable model. And they can work remotely. They can work in groups. That's something I'm also, another one of my missions, to spread the power of group medical visits. And for many practices now, this is starting to be paid for through the payer system, through insurance.
Yeah, I love that. I know that I have read that doctors, well, we know often doctors they're not taking care of their own health. They're working long hours. They're not eating properly. I had no idea that the percentage was as high. Now, as you said, you started this organization, this coaching support for anyone. Could be doctors, it could be me, it could be anyone, but you were ahead of the curve in terms of when it was really needed, because 2 years ago, when COVID first came in, I didn't think it would be gone in a year. I did think it would be gone in 2 years. And here we are going into the 3rd year, and I think we're going to be living with it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the prediction. And to become an endemic, it may happen, but it may not. And it's still the unknown. And so really, I focus on, and this comes from positive psychology research. We all have character strengths, and these are traits that we're born with. Everybody has them. And sometimes they get out of balance. Some traits are underused, some are overused. And sometimes a trait that's can be underused is prudence. Sometimes it's overused. So in certain situations, I might be more fearful, more cautious than I need to be. And in other situations, I just want to be prudent, to really exercise caution. So I am wearing a mask, and I have been in situations where nobody else was. And to be able to let go of a sense of, oh, am I going to be judged as weird, as something's wrong with me, or and really to just make that decision. I also look at the evidence. Functional medicine is evidence-based, and there's a lot of unproven anecdotal evidence, fears, myths out there. And so there are resources that, there are people who are scientists so I look at good sources, where is something published? If it's published in a medical journal and it's reputable, then it's trustworthy. And coaches can act as educators. They can help people do what's called decisional balance. So for example, if somebody is saying, I'm on the fence, or I'm going a certain way, and coaches can guide them to where that they make that decision to change. They don't tell people what to do. They don't say that you should eat this and not that, or you should take a certain medication. They don't say you have to do this. They respect and honor that person, that client, and they help them to where that they have that aha moment, and they make that decision like, yeah, they've focused on what I want my health for. And so that they may, coaches ask those kind of questions like, what makes life worth living? What would you like your health for? And then they are doing something now for their future self. So they decide they are going to get vaccinated. They are going to get their booster. They are going to eat a certain way. They're going to eat anti-inflammatory foods more often. They're going to get out and exercise. They make that decision. And it's very powerful when they have weighed the evidence and they use their strength of judgment, which is another character strength. And so these are all the things that we teach people who want to become health coaches. And I should say that what I founded was a school, and it's all remote. It takes a year. And the people who are coming to us are amazing. We have people from ages 18 to 86 who have
You have
come.
someone who's 86 who's just
Yes,
becoming a
who
health
have
coach.
they
That's
just yes.
phenomenal.
They have come out of retirement. They are saying, "This is my mission." Often, they're saying, they're not in it to establish a career, to make tons of money. They're in it to give back, to have that mission, and they are often guiding people to stay healthy, to stay vibrant. And we get people who are doctors, dentists, lawyers, people with a healthcare background, without, lots of teachers who are retired. And again, they're just sitting around thinking, oh, I wish I had something to do. And they don't want to go back to just the community college and take random courses, which can be great, pursuing new learning, but they want to come out of their retirement to serve people.
I love everything that you just said because you're on a mission. I'm on a mission, but all of your coaches are on a mission, and they're coming from, wide variety of age, wide variety of background, and they're doing it to help other people. And I just got shivers because when we're on a mission and we're doing it because we want to serve, it multiplies. And then those people go out and help other people. And where I opened this conversation around having the key to longevity, and you're talking about an 86-year-old woman who's entered your school, but I can see that your enthusiasm and your positivity and your beliefs are probably very contagious in a good way. Like we think of the virus as contagious in a negative way, but we can be very contagious with our enthusiasm and our positive outlook. And you and I grew up in the 50s. I mean, we met early on when I first joined the Genius Network. I think you might have been the first person that I spoke to outside the 2 days that we retreat type of thing that we get together. And we couldn't get over how many parallel things and yet how many different things as well. But the parallel things are that number one, growing up in the 50s, you probably became a teacher because that's what we did. That's what I thought I was going to do, is be a teacher. But because you kept growing, I think of a tree. In fact, I have a sketch of a tree that I look at all the time. And the tree comes up and it's got all these branches. And then those branches have other branches, but we're all contained within that tree. We could call it the tree of life. But everybody that you work with is on a mission. And I love that because they have purpose in their life. When I'm working with someone on a book, and I know you have your book on functional medicine coaching, stories from the movement that's transforming healthcare. And that couldn't be a better title for what we're talking about right here, because you truly are transforming healthcare for everyone, including doctors and nurses and people who are under so much stress anyway, just because of their work. But over the last 2 years has just been just so difficult. I know if I have to get in to see a doctor, I had cataract eye surgery in March, and I needed to get in for my follow-up. And I was a little late in terms of contacting the appointment scheduling people. And the appointment was now 3 months out. You wouldn't think an eye doctor would be so overloaded, but the whole healthcare system is overloaded. And if we have guides like your coaches who can help us stay on the healthy side of things and improve our lives, well, then that is a key to longevity, isn't it?
It is absolutely, because a health coach working with somebody, it's more like having a friend. In fact, there's a doctor who hires health coaches for her medical practice, and she tells her patients, the health coach you're going to connect with is going to be your friend in our practice. And so we know that people will feel so comfortable with their health coach that they'll tell them things that they might be hesitant to tell the doctor or even the nurse about, like, oh, they haven't refilled that prescription, or maybe if it's an integrative medicine doctor, they're not, or nutrition, they're not going to go ahead and buy all those supplements that were recommended. It's too expensive. But they may be embarrassed or ashamed to tell the doctor that, or they may feel like they're rushed in their appointment, and so they don't say that the stress from their job is, or they're not sleeping at night, and so the coach will explore those areas with them, or they'll feel so comfortable with this relationship. They'll feel like, this is my peer, and this person's not going to judge me, because in coaching we accept people as they are. And even if they're talking about things that we may not agree with, their beliefs about what to eat, for example, or any other kind of beliefs. And so the coach honors that each person has their own wisdom about, they know what's best for them. And often they will guide them to exercise judgment in areas where, maybe they are making decisions that are not serving them.
I
So
love
yeah,
that, because a lot of individuals might not be in a position to hire an individual coach. But if a doctor's practice includes a health coach within that practice, then the person really is getting that extra care that you're describing. And with that extra care and that kind of mining, I call it mining for gold, for the golden idea when I'm working with someone or with a book, but you're talking about like they're mining to find out as their friend how they can best help. And as a result, the person opens up and shares things that they wouldn't otherwise have shared, that really is an important key to their longevity, to their health, to maybe, again, chronic pain, chronic illness, things where people are taking so many different medications. And a lot of that can go away if, like the anti-inflammatory diets. I was put on a diuretic, oh gosh, 10 years ago. It wasn't massive high blood pressure, but it was it was something that should be taken care of. And so they put me on a diuretic. Fast forward, I understood from things that I was reading that if I was on an anti-inflammatory diet, that that would remove the inflammation that was causing the high blood pressure. And guess what? I don't take the diuretic anymore, and I have perfect blood pressure, 120 over 80. Yes. So yeah. So I totally believe in everything that you are sharing. And I just love also that you are calling your coaches friends and guides, because that just, to me, that says it all, that somebody is there by, whether it's a doctor or a doctor's patient, by their side and helping them. How do you take care of yourself, Sandra? What are some of your
yeah.
practices?
Yeah, well, what I like to say is I practice impeccable self-care and doing it for my future self, and everything that I do, I love to do. I don't dread it, because if I dread it, like, oh, I have to get on the treadmill and oh, I don't want to do it, then it's not going to work. And so I have found things that I love. And because early on I never was professional or any good at it, but I always loved to dance, I still take ballet class. In fact, later today, after this call, I've got my ballet class. And this is a former dancer from the Joffrey Ballet. She's from our community. And so I take a virtual class and I love it. And I continue taking tap. It's good for your brain. You have to remember the steps. So I do that. I love yoga. I've had a yoga practice for many, many years. My mat is always laid out, and I have an office gym combination. I set
Oh,
that
I
up
love it.
after the pandemic and the first lockdown. And so I just kept adding more and more equipment. So my mat's always there. And I start out the day, I do headstands and handstands, and I do a lot of
Wow.
Pilates. I
Wow.
love anything that is dance like. So Pilates is very the flow of it, as well as yoga is dance like, and so I will do that. And then I'm kind of a what they call a biohacker. So I always our mutual friend Dave Asprey, if he's talking about a carol bike, you could just get on it and do these 20-second sprints, and so I love that compared
Yes.
to years ago, when I was in my 40s, I was that person who like, oh, every day I have to be on my treadmill for, an hour, and no matter what. And same thing day in and day out. And now I vary it up, but I also have found that when I enjoy something, I take a lot of walks, and love doing that as well. So, and then I think what is often overlooked, and I think it's significant that I'm coming to it last, is strength training. So I think that as we age, our are the most important organ. They are anyways. They're overlooked, and they need a lot of attention and support, because if we don't lift heavy things, we're going to get sarcopenia, which is literally wasting away. And you see this, and I do not want to be a frail old lady. And so I lift heavy things. I do
Good.
some things that are safe, but I'm doing deadlifts, and I got
Well, you
something
do
called,
push-ups,
I
don't you?
do push-ups. I do
I know
push-ups
that.
every day. Yes.
That's wonderful
Yeah.
because you have a very slender body, which probably is part hereditary and part all these wonderful practices of dance and yoga that have put you in that frame of yours, a slender frame. I have a slender frame. And we as women, and being slender, are at such high risk for this wasting away of muscle. When I was younger, I used to lift weights, and I haven't lifted weights for many, many years, but I could tell the difference. It was like all that hard work held me for a very long time. And then I started to see it change. And because I walk a lot, and that's something I love to do, that my lower body is very strong, but not so much for my upper body. So I've had to refocus on that and have the awareness that I'm not 40 years old anymore, and so that self-care is so important. And often, if no matter what your age is and no matter what your work or your lifestyle, we're busy, and a lot of times the self-care goes off to the side, and you've made it a priority. And not only in your own life, but in the way that you teach and you help others with all the health coaches in your organization that you're growing. How many coaches do you have that graduate from your 1-year program? What's like
Yeah.
every year?
We
What's an
have
average?
Yeah, we're graduating about 800 a year. We have over 3,000 now. They're around the world, and you mentioned it earlier, they are all on a mission. And what just is just gives me shivers is to think about the ripple effect that each person that we trained. And I got to tell you, I mean, we started out so small. We were in a suburb of Chicago in this tiny windowless office because I was a psychologist. Elise was working with me, and we're just these local people that, we and had no idea. We just thought, well, we'll train 4 or 5 people and we'll do corporate wellness and local corporations in the area. And thought big and had this big dream. And I mean, there's so many people all over the world. They are doing incredible things, and that ripple effect, because they're touching people's lives, and then those people really that's spreading to their loved ones, to their community, and it really is this planetary health. So yeah, and for self-care, the reason that I believe in, again, it's non-negotiable, my self-care every day. And that is because if I don't do that, then I will waste away cognitively, physically, and I will not be able to fulfill my mission.
Yeah, you definitely are a messenger on a mission, Sandra. And I had no idea the extent that your coaches, 800 now strong and is growing, are going out and helping other people on that same mission. And that's the beautiful thing. When we're on a mission, it's not a one and done. It's not like I'm just going to have this practice in Chicago in a small room and I'm just going to see the patients that I can per day. That's kind of like the typical model. But when we're on a mission, we want more. We know that we are destined to do more and to answer our calling. And that I mentioned, or it's jet fuel. I mean, there's nothing that's going to stop it. It is going to catapult in bigger ways than you can possibly imagine. So if you had to summarize, like, what is your message? We're talking a lot about the mission, but if you were going to summarize what your message is, what would you say?
I have to go back to something that was my message many, many years ago. If you were attending one of my lectures or my workshops in the 80s, I would have had a slide. I don't even know, do we even have slides back then? An overhead projector, those of you who remember those. And it would have said, what's real in the mind is real in the body, because it is how we interpret situations. If we get up every day, as I do, and I learned this from my mother, and who knew that's the behavior change expert, BJ Fogg, it's his mantra as well. As soon as your feet hit the floor, today's going to be a good day. Well, that is in your mind. You are thinking those thoughts. That's creating your reality. And so that is mind body, what's real in the mind. If you are scared, if you are thinking hopeless, negative, it'll never get any better, you go into a stress response and the body knows and responds. So I'm going to stick with that because it
I
still works.
love it. As you were saying that you learned it from your mother, what I learned from my mother, she would say, Susan, you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yes.
Which is exactly,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, it's like there's no feeling, you can do whatever you want. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's a beautiful message. You are definitely a messenger, and you are definitely on a mission.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be here today.
Thank you, Sandra. And for anyone who wants to find out more about Sandra's organization and contact information, it will be in the text below this video. Thank you.
Thank you.